Hiya, welcome to LSB Feaster's radio channel and travel corner, where our mission in life is keeping great radio from the past alive. I am Ellis, radio's second best friend, and today we're going to Philadelphia and Radio 99, WIBG, a legendary radio station in Philadelphia, better known to many as WIBBAGE. This station came on like gangbusters in the late 1950s. They started playing rock and roll with such fast-talking DJs as the Rockin' Bird, Joe Niagara, Frank X. Feller, Tom Donahue, Harvey Miller, Jerry Stevens, Bill Wright Sr., and of course, the legendary Hy Lit. Heisky had been spinning records over at the R&B station in town, WHAT, probably the only white disc jockey on WHAT. He eventually moved over to WIBBAGE and just became huge. How huge? Well, he had more than 70% of the radio audience at one point. That's how popular he was and how popular this radio station. On WIBG, during its heyday, this station was a steamroller. Right up until the late 60s, when WIBG began to lose out to up-and-comer WFIL, which was basically tighter, faster, brighter, and just kind of left WIBG in the dust. I got to thank Bill Cain, a friend of mine who provided this Aircheck. I so appreciate it. What this is it's a radio time sweep of WIBG from 1960 to 1968, right during its 60s heyday. So give a listen. If you like what you hear, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, and after you do, smack that bell, and you will be notified whenever we post anything new. All right, so if you're ready, it's the WIBG time sweep from 1960 to 1968 from WIBG Philadelphia.
The History of WIBG presents a collection of tapes and actual shows, newscast formats, jingles, and old album introductions. The time sweep begins in 1960 and ends in 1968, just before the reign of Paul Drew.
Everybody! Far and near, Niagara's here on WIBBAGE!
Hello, this is Joe Niagara, and I've got a stack of knocked out Niagara nifties of the past. If you're ready, this rockin' bird will fly.
Rise and swing, ring-a-ding-ding, Niagara calls! WIBG Radio 99. Pow! Wake up and wail!
Johnny Mathis on WIBBAGE, and that survey song 15. It's been around a long time, kind of going up and down every once in a while. My Love for You with Van Austin's orchestra and chorus. People love the sound of Don Celebrity. Survey song number 7, So Sad. And now, just for the fun of it, here's a WIBG comic commentator, Stan Freeberg, dramatizing a comment of our time, a Radio 99 public interest feature to make you smile. I don't like it. They're having a lot of trouble with the Congo.
Well, then they ought to play a wall.
Roy Orbison, Blue Angel, on WIBBAGE, 12 before 5, drive extra carefully. Ladies and gentlemen, more people are listening to WIBG now than to any other Philadelphia radio station. Stevens here playing a couple for you on part 2 of your top 99 hits of the week in 60 seconds WIBG News. WIBG News, reporting news at any second. Over 3,000 reporters, plus news tipsters, covering news at every second. Philadelphia listens to WIBG for news. WIBG News to the 17th hour of Friday, October 14th at WIBG Philadelphia. The third polio case of the year has been reported by
To Heatwave, from Checker and Rydell to the Sapphires, many mighty musical monsters have started right here on Radio 99. Yes, WIBG, radioactive springboard to success for many of the world's finest musical entertainers, now presenting another fast-breaking challenge from the Delaware Valley. A new artist, a new record, brand new, from WIBBAGE to you. And here's all the best for future success from WIBG and the All-American Go-Go team to Keith Belladar, Tifford, John Bakes, and Joe Pfeiffer. From WIBG land, the 4 rolls, just sad and blue. It's WIBG land. Cats from Browns Mills, New Jersey, and one from Philadelphia. Yay! Written by Bakes and Pfeiffer, too. Sad and blue. It's a local sound and a doggone good one. Before Topham's on WIBG AM and FM here in Philadelphia, can't help myself. Rolling on home, Rolling Stones in 65, they came alive. The brand new year is 65 with all the groovy sounds of 66. From 65, the sounds of the year is 66. Martha the Vandellas. The Boondocks. Hey, Billy, hey, let's have a nice hand for Don Myers. Hey, for Don. No, I'm talking actually about his Hey, Andre, why don't you run that silly little horn there going, what's the matter? Some kind of a nut, a crazy nutty kid or something? You're going, Andrea, what's the matter? You want a big wreck and go, you are a crazy kid. That's Andrea. And let's run by the Sunrays earlier this evening. Junior, Kevin Wright, and all the Conways, the whole Myers gang from Frank X and Frank S. It's been a pretty good year. 17.
It's Highsky calling uptown, downtown, crosstown. It's time for WIBBAGE to go with the sound of the century. Those crazy haircuts from across the big waters, John, Paul, George, and Ringo. The sound of the Beatles.
Present temperature, 46. Relative humidity, 69. This is Bob Gale reporting on WIBG. First in Philadelphia, home of Bill Wright, Ray Gilmore guesting.
WIBG. Music now.
Former WIBG sure shot. No, it isn't a former WIBG sure shot. It's our current WIBG sure.
WIBBAGE Charger.
Shot.
WIBG.
Hello there.
Ray Gilmore.
And here for Bill Wright, 3 minutes after 1 o'clock. Yeah, love Flower Girls. That's number 5 on your top 99, The Rain, The Park, and other things.
I'm going to go to the phone right now with $2,340, 2340. The Joe Niagara Show might be awarding it to you.
The quality of some of the recordings you just heard were poor, but it is still easy to see that the sound WIBG put out at the time was unstructured, loose, free-form, and to some degree unprofessional. In 1968, all of this changed. A man by the name of Paul Drew came to WIBG as program director. The station was put on a strict, tight format of the more music variety, with practically no talk allowed. The sound came out like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, on with the heavy sound. WIBG, Philadelphia. It's 10:30 at the Big 99. This is Johnny Williams for John Rhodey. In the morning, baby. For the second consecutive week, it's on top. Henry Mancini and the love theme from Romeo and Juliet on the John Rhodey Show with Johnny Williams at 10:20 from the Big 99.
The sound was smooth, tight, well-paced, but too restrictive.
I guess there were a couple of points that were good for a little while, but the overall sound, the overall no-nos and must do and do not do under any circumstance routine.
It was restricted, Joe.
It was so restricted to a point where, as I said on the air just seconds ago, that the guys that were working it were very unhappy and very uncomfortable, and it came out of the speaker like that, too.
And then they brought someone in who began to treat the station with the basic method of streamlining it down. There, all of a sudden, spots were clustered, spot load was cut, records were on very, very strict rotation. Certain records had to be played at certain times in a certain way. You had to read certain one-liners that were prepared for you over the top of a record at a certain time every hour. This, to me, was like the most abhorrent thing, you know. I remember having to read some inane thing that somebody wrote, like WIBG, bathing your bod with boss vibrations. You know, like you throw up on something like that. And then having to read it, not only having to read it, but having to read it where it sounded sincere, and you were like, listen to. See how sincere it sounded. And you had to read it over a record. And you had to, like, either shorten it or expand it so that the vocal came in exactly, which really made, like, you know, vomit radio. I mean, really, you know, like, even if it was accomplished, so what?
Despite the criticism, Jerry Stevens saw a few good points in the format.
I think that the good things out of a format like that are the things that you wouldn't even recognize, which I think could be applied anywhere. When you've got something to say it. When you've got nothing to say, shut up and play the music, because you are second to the music. Kinetics came out of it. For example, going from fast to fast, medium to slow, changing pace subliminally. That's the good part of that kind of format.
Criticism of the format was mostly negative, except for what Johnny Williams said. Johnny was a former WIBG disc jockey during the Paul Drew regime, and is still working for Mr. Drew at WRKO in Boston. He had this to say about the format and Paul Drew.
I like working for Paul Drew because he's probably one of the most professional program directors in America. He changed the whole radio station. That radio station was a zoo before he came in there. He changed everything from the log to on the air. He changed every aspect of that whole radio station. Because I know what it was like before he went in there, because I was a friend of Frank X, who was one of the fellows to go. And it was like a zoo, that radio station.
The Big 99 format was tight and incorporated more music, but to a large extent it depended on contest and promotion gimmicks. The contests changed periodically, but all were basically the same call-in and win type. For example, Location X.
This is the sound of Location X. Of Camden, New Jersey, for $1,500. Exactly where is Location X?
It's the bridge that's on Chestnut Street near the B&O Old Railroad Station.
Holy smokes, James! Guess what? That's not it!
WIBG.
I did it again. Location X remains a secret. We're sending Jim a Big 99 compass. Stand by for your chance next hour to win $1,500 in WIBG cash. It's number 13 for the brand of Big 30.
Jerry Stevens has a few comments on contests in general.
I am not a contest believer, by the way. Don't believe contests. I believe that, I believe in good quality programming. I don't believe in buying an audience. I don't believe in sublimating your programming to contests, promotions, giveaways, services.
Contests do buy an audience, like it or not. But despite this, Johnny Williams believes that it's the best way to get an audience. He cites competition as one of the main parts of radio, and contests as the best way of competing. He also liked the promotion gimmicks used in 1969 by WIBG, things such as the space station, the history of rock and roll, and the unforgettable Stop the Music.
Ladies and gentlemen, at 6:00 tomorrow morning, August 7th, 1969, this kind of music stops on WIBG.
Hey, would you repeat that, please?
WIBG will stop this kind of music. Tomorrow morning at 6:00.
WIBG.
They Ladies and gentlemen, this Thursday, July 3rd, 1969, at exactly 6 p.m., WIBG becomes the station of tomorrow. Listen for the arrival of TTT. WIBG.
Stop the Music turned out to be a contest where the music stops at certain times, and the listener calls in while TTT became the space station for 2.5 days. Joe Niagara comments on promotions like these.
What do you think of, that Stop the Music?
Well, that again was one of those put-on promotions.
Yeah. But do you think it drew any listeners?
I think it got a lot of people angry, if you want to.
This is the history of WIBG until 1969. Times of uncertainty, sloppiness with a large audience, and times of extreme planning, promotions, contests, and tight playlists with strict rotation of records and a smaller audience. WIBG was sold by Storer to Buckley Broadcasting in the fall of 1969 and underwent another total change in programming. They're not yet certain what direction to take or what they're aiming for, but generally it's personality radio. Jerry Stevens talks about some similarities of the new WIBG and WMMR.
If any station is going to be copying us, it'll be IBG, and I look for them to do it now with the latest ratings out, showing them the way, because before the ratings, just prior to the ratings, they were doing us anyway. They were getting tracks we were playing and playing them, and they were taping us, which they still are, and finding certain tracks that we're playing that they think that they could play all day without sounding experimental or underground, and still be aware that taking our public service stuff, which we produce ourselves here, and taking them and using the pollution spots, the ecologically oriented spots, the American Indian, the real humane, true, sincere public service done that way on our part.
In the short time remaining, it's impossible to take a complete look at the new WIBG, but we can make a few points. In some respect, WIBG is copying WMMR, but in others they seem just to be headed in a semi-progressive rock format direction. Some underground and some top 40. Combining this with relatively good personality, compared to other Philadelphia stations, they may have a winning formula. On the other hand, their small amount of underground may entice some listeners into seeking more of it, thereby making WIBG only a bridge to bring listeners from WFIL over to WDAS or WMMR, where they can get a lot more underground without the teeny bopper music included. It's still too early to tell which direction this will go in, but at any rate, most people seem to think the station is better to listen to now than it was under Paul Drew. That's according to a survey taken at Temple University.
For years, WIBG was a monster radio station, and people were satisfied with it until they were offered something better. Even then, it took over a year to kill such a giant. However, it takes a lot longer to build one as large as WIBBAGE was. The history of WIBG commends WIBBAGE for its new awareness of its old faults and sincerely hopes that through their attempt at better programming, they'll rise to their former height. But this time because they've consciously worked for it and deserve it.
Radio 99.
The history of WIBG has been presented with the help of various people and organizations, but it's not connected in any way with WIBG Radio. However, we wish to thank WIBG in particular for its help in production. Special thanks go to Joe Niagara for information given, to Joey Reynolds for his help, and to Jack Reynolds, program director, for some of the jingles that were used. We also wish to thank Jerry Stevens, former WIBG disc jockey and now program director of WMMR. Johnny Williams, also former WIBG disc jockey, now at WRKO Radio in Boston. WRKO Radio itself, and the students participating in the survey at Temple. The history of WIBG was written, produced, and directed by Dave Martin, hosted by Jan Zinman, and engineered by Joe Lavero. This is Juan Varleta speaking.
Radio 99, WIBG, Radio 9.